The Tolkien Road, Episode 30, The Lord of the Rings, Book 1, Chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow-Downs.
All right, go ahead. The Tolkien Road.
What is a Barrow-Wight? Who are the men of Carn-Dûm? Is there any connection between them and the Black Riders? And what's up with Frodo's latest mysterious dream? On this episode of the Tolkien Road, we discuss all this and more as we continue our discussion of The Lord of the Rings with Book 1, Chapter 8 of Fellowship, Fog on the Barrow-Downs. By the way, if you haven't already, please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes. We'd love to know what you think of the podcast. Enjoy the show! Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Tolkien Road. This is John Carswell with you as always. Greta, how in the world are you?
How in the world? How in the world indeed.
How in the world?
Makes me think of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
But you said how in the world, not where in the world.
How in the world
How
is
in the
Greta
world.
Carswell?
How in the world is Greta? Greta is great.
Great.
Yeah. Which, Great and Greta have the exact same letters in them.
That's true.
In fact, sometimes I accidentally sign my name Great instead of Greta.
Feeling great and grateful. It's kind of like one of those little games where you're like, my name is Greta and I'm feeling grateful, gratuitous, and graphic.
I was going to say grumpy.
And grumpy. All right.
It's better than graphic.
Yeah, that is.
I don't like the way graphic sounds.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like graphic novel.
Well, I guess that's true, but how do you feel graphic?
I don't know where your mind with it.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel graphic, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either.
I just don't think
I was just not being very smart about the words I chose.
Apparently not.
Sorry.
Maybe we should start this podcast over.
No. You just roll with it.
Roll with it.
Yeah, so tonight, on this episode, we are going to be discussing Book 1, Chapter 8 of The Lord of the Rings, which is Fog on the Barrow-Downs. This is kind of the last of the, I will call them, non-plot advancing chapters.
Thank heaven.
I'm
glad.
From here, the pace picks up a little bit. Or maybe if the pace doesn't pick up a little bit, at least, it doesn't feel like we're just lost in the woods for a long time. Nonetheless, I think, I really love these parts of the Fellowship because I feel like it gives a sense of just how vast the world is that they're living in, and that not everything has to be a part of the plot, or at least not a discernible part of the plot.
True.
And that's one of the things I love about Tolkien. Not everything has to fit in like all nice and neat. I feel like that's more true to life and more true to reality. That, lots of stuff happens that you don't really understand why the heck that happened.
That's true. That's a very good point.
So, I'm not putting down these last several chapters we've read by any means. But it's it's nice to be getting back to a point where the plot's a little more familiar and it's a little more along the lines of, okay, now what the heck are we going to do with the ring, right?
Right.
But let's deal with Chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow-Downs. So, as always, it's time to kick off with a little haiku.
Haiku time. Haiku time.
Boom.
Haiku time.
Boom.
Let's do it.
All right. So, you want to go first or me?
I went first last time, so you go first tonight.
Okay. I shall go first. So we're just doing one each, right?
Yeah, just one each.
I actually wrote 3 for this one, and I think they're all pretty good, but I'm just going to read one.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I've just been feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Good.
All right. Also, wasn't doing them at the last minute, trying to
Evs.
cram the haiku. All right, haiku moment. Let's get the haiku moment. Let's establish it. Listen to the crickets. Yes. Okay. More strange dreams. This time pleasant. A promise of bliss for dark roads ahead.
That must have been in the part of the chapter that I skimmed. Because I don't remember that.
This is the very beginning of the chapter.
Yeah, I skimmed that.
Oh.
I found it rather boring, actually. But that's a beautiful haiku.
Oh, well, thank you.
I love it.
Too bad you skimmed over the part that inspired it.
I guess. Maybe I'll have to go back and read it now. Did you use the word blissful? Didn't you use the word blissful?
I said a promise of bliss.
A promise of bliss. That's what I liked. I like the promise and bliss.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Promise of bliss for dark roads ahead. Yeah.
That's really nice. Well done, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Alright, here's mine. Hobbits find trouble like hounds find coons. From search and death, Tom rescues them.
Wow.
Is that a good wow or bad wow?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Like hounds find what?
Coons.
Like raccoons?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like a coon hound, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So it's like, it's almost, you know, how coon hounds, like, they are trained to smell out and find raccoons or squirrels or rabbits, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like the hobbits have been these last few days. It's almost like they're smelling trouble and walking right into it.
I see what you're saying. Okay. I'm with you.
You got it?
Right on.
Thanks, yeah.
All right. So...
Did our super fans represent this week?
Well, so we're recording... We've been kind of messing with the schedule a little bit lately.
Yeah,
we're switching to releasing on Monday, which means we are recording... We have been recording a little later in the week. So Josh got us a couple. Mary Grace, I haven't seen any come across from her yet.
Okay.
But hey, you know, if they come across, we'll still get them up. I'll still get them up on the post
on the blog post. Yep.
For the post, yeah. But
sweet.
Yeah, normally, so FYI for those who do want to submit them, our normal time is towards the end of the week. So for recording, so we're trying to do it on our Friday nights. Tonight we're doing it actually on a Thursday night because Friday night doesn't work for me.
Right.
So Josh got him in just in the nick of time.
Woo-hoo!
So, and I need to review the two that he sent. Let's see here.
You're going to judge them on air?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm being judgmental on the air.
Shame.
Okay, here we go. I think this is a good, the better of the two, I'll just say the one I'm going to read of the two. I won't judge.
Remove the plank, John.
Don't judge my IQ.
Remove the plank.
Remove the plank. All right. Baggins left behind. From Bag End goes under hill, if only in name. Ooh.
Can you read that one again?
Baggins left behind. From Bag End goes under hill, if only in name.
Oh.
Yeah. I kind of like that because I think
really
it's got kind of a nice little double meaning to it.
Yeah, it's a nice play on words.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really, really good. Dang,
well done, Josh.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Josh. That
was
really good.
Yes. Well done. All right. So, this is actually one of the shorter chapters again, I'd say.
Yes.
Not like a ton that I could, pick out that we need to discuss again because not a lot of it leads down the ultimate path of, of where the Lord of the Rings is going.
Right.
But still, very interesting central
stuff.
question, right?
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, basically, what the heck is this Barrow White? Right? Or who the heck is this Barrow White?
Yeah, I was wondering that. And I'm also like, what is up with Goldberry? Like, who is she? She strikes me as such a Marion-type figure in this chapter, especially.
How so?
Well, at the beginning, where they, they're like on their way, and all of a sudden Frodo's super sad because he didn't get a chance to say bye to Goldberry.
Yeah.
Right? And he's about to turn around to go back, and then she like appears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like on a mountaintop, and or on a hilltop, or whatever. And then she's just there, and it's just the way she's described. Oh, I'm in the wrong chapter. That's why I can't find what I'm looking for. The way she's described, it just reminded me of images that I've seen of Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Different of a particular way that Mary has been portrayed.
Yeah.
In different places. So, and just the way they were talking about the light that was kind of coming out from under her feet.
Right.
And, just the way she spoke to them and appeared, and then just, she just appeared right when she needed to be there. It was almost, it's like she knew that Frodo, she anticipated Frodo's desire to see her. Right. Right. And his need to see her, and she appeared, and then just the way that she was described just really made me think of Mary.
So you think, you think she shows up because Frodo needs to see like a last glimpse of her?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because, I feel like it almost says that, right? Because they were on their way, and then it even says that, Frodo, how does they describe Frodo? And like almost like this, they had just dismounted their ponies up the last to lead them up the last steep slope, and suddenly Frodo stopped. "Goldberry," he cried, "my fair lady, clad all in silver green, we have never said farewell to her, nor seen her since the evening." He was so distressed that he turned back. But at that moment, a clear call came rippling down. I mean, it sounds like he really needed to see her, and he really wanted to see her. Like, I don't know if he just needed the encouragement or the assurance. I'm not sure what. But I just felt like he really just needed to see her for whatever reason. And Goldberry obviously knew that.
Yeah,
and appeared.
It's interesting that they run back up to see her, and then she bids them turn around and look out from the hilltop overlands under the morning. It's almost like she gives them a further vision, the ability to kind of see further down the road and further where they need to go.
Yes.
By coming back to her.
Yeah.
So.
That's that guidance and.
Yeah. Eastward the Barrow-Downs rose, ridge behind ridge into the morning, and vanished out of sight into a guess. It was no more than a guess of blue and a remote white glimmer blending with the hem of the sky, but it spoke to them out of memory and old tales of the high and distant mountains. Good call. I hadn't really picked up on that, but that's good.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and it just also too the way they respond to her. I mean, after after she greets them, shows them what she wanted to show them, and then greets them and encourages them on their way. It says Frodo found no words to answer.
Yeah.
He just bowed low and mounted his pony. So.
Right on. Nice.
That kind of just jumped out at me.
Was that your favorite passage?
No, it wasn't my favorite passage.
So what was your favorite passage?
My favorite passage was a little bit later in the chapter.
Okay.
Where it was after Tom had saved them from the Barrow. What was he called?
The Barrow-White?
Barrow-White, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like all clad in like these white garments, right? With gold on them. And they're looking for their clothes. And here's my favorite passage. It says, "You won't find your clothes again," said Tom, bounding down from the mound and laughing as he danced round them in the sunlight. One would have thought that nothing dangerous or dreadful had happened. And indeed the horror faded out of their hearts as they looked at him and saw the merry glint in his eyes. "What do you mean?" asked Pippin, looking at him, half puzzled and half amused. "Why not?" But Tom shook his head, saying, "You found yourselves again, out of the deep water. Clothes are but little loss, if you escape from drowning. Be glad, my merry friends, and let the warm sunlight heat now heart and limb. Cast off these old rags, run naked on the grass, while Tom goes a-hunting." He sprang down the hill, whistling and calling. Looking down after him, Frodo saw him running away southwards along the green hollow between their hill and the next, still whistling and crying, "Hey now, come, hoy now, whither do you wander? Up, down, near or far, here, there, or yonder? Sharp ears, wise nose, swish tail and bumpkin, white socks, my little lad, and old fatty lumpkin." So he sang, running fast, tossing up his hat and catching it, until he was hidden by a fold of the ground. But for some time his "hey now, hoy now" came floating back down the wind, which had shifted round towards the south.
Nice. What do you like about that?
I love Tom Bombadil, and I feel like this passage just captures his really kind of quirky, curious personality. And, and I think he also helps to put things in perspective for the hobbits. Here they are, like, worried about their clothes. And he's like, "Listen, guys, you all almost died. Like, clothes not a big deal.
Right.
Run naked in the grass, celebrate the fact that you're alive."
Yeah.
That
you get to go running naked on the grass, but you don't get to do, when you're back in the Shire.
In the Shire, exactly. Yeah, when in Rome. I just think he does a great job of just helping, put things in perspective for them and helping them appreciate where they are, and just to see the silver lining, kind of, I guess, after their ordeal. So, because now they get to be naked.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
I don't know. It just made me smile. It made my heart happy.
Well, that's what favorite passage is all about, right?
That's exactly right. What's
Can't
your
always
favorite?
explain exactly what it is. Sometimes
That's
you just
true.
like it.
So, John, next time don't ask me why.
I just liked it.
Just let me read it.
Do I have to explain to you why I liked
Exactly.
it? I just liked it.
I just liked it.
Just
It made me happy.
That's right.
It made me want to be there with the hobbits and Tom.
Mine's just a little bit later in the chapter. It's I guess right as they're saying goodbye to Tom finally, and it says, I'll read a little longer part of it. So, he's giving them the daggers, and he said, "Old knives are long enough as swords for hobbit people," he said. "Sharp blades are good to have if Shire folk go walking east, south, or far away into dark and danger." Then he told them that these blades were forged many long years ago by men of Westerness. They were foes of the Dark Lord, but they were overcome by the evil king of Carn Dûm into the land of Angmar. "Few now remember them," Tom murmured, "yet still some go wandering, sons of forgotten kings walking in loneliness, guarding from evil things folk that are heedless." The hobbits did not understand his words, but as he spoke they had a vision, as it were, of a great expanse of years behind them, like a vast shadowy plain over which there strode shapes of men, tall and grim with bright swords, and last came one with a star on his brow. Then the vision faded, and they were back in the sunlit world. It was time to start again. They made ready, picking their bags and lading their ponies. Their new weapons they hung on their leather belts under their jackets, feeling them very awkward and wondering if they would be of any use. Fighting had not before occurred to any of them as one of the adventures in which their flight would land them. I just really liked the bit about, that as Tom is speaking, they had a vision, as it were, of a great expanse of years behind them. And again, part of what I love about Tolkien is the geographic expansiveness. It's this. It feels like this vast land, but at the same time, there's also this chronological expansiveness. Right? There's just whole periods of time, even in the Third Age. We're not even talking about the First Age and all the stuff that we already read about in the Silmarillion, but.
Right.
There's the whole Second Age, and then there's the Third Age. And the hobbits were living in 3,000 years into the Third Age or something, close to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's just, there's all of this history in different parts of the world that's just mysterious and lost,
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we can look at history and feel like it's like one very solid narrative. I think especially this happens for us as Americans, or even just Europeans. We can look and have this very centralized view of history where everything follows one narrative, ultimately. And I think this is just a good reminder of all these. There's history everywhere, and there's deep, deep, deep history everywhere, and mysterious history, and strange things happening, and all this sort of thing. So,
Again, it's kind of like a perspective check.
Yeah. So, mostly I just liked it, Greta.
Okay.
Stop asking. Stop giving me a hard time about it.
Okay. I didn't think I asked.
Isn't that good enough for you?
Okay.
Man.
I didn't even ask, though. You offered.
Yeah. Well.
Just saying.
Okay.
Just saying is all.
Yeah. All right. So.
So what?
Well, why don't we take a break? Because I think this is going to be in a little shorter episode. So why don't we take a break right now, and then we'll come back and talk about Barrow Whites and stuff.
Yeah. Let's do
that.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
That. All right.
Yeah. Stay tuned, y'all.
Do you know the tale that Tolkien called the kernel of the Middle-earth mythology? Beren and Luthien is the story of an outlaw mortal and an elvish princess tasked with obtaining a Silmaril, one of the holy jewels of the Blessed Realm, from the Iron Crown of the Dark Lord Morgoth. In my new book, Tolkien's Requiem, I explore the legend of these doomed lovers. In doing so, I aim to provide a backdoor into the world of the Silmarillion for those who have struggled to give it a go. One of Tolkien's greatest achievements, the story of Beren and Luthien, deserves to be as well known as The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Get your copy of Tolkien's Requiem today by visiting truemyths.org/Beren. That's truemyths.org/BEREN. Happy reading!
All right. We is back.
Yes, we is.
Welcome back, Greta.
Welcome back, John.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's talk Barrow Whites.
Yeah.
So what is a Barrow White? What do you think a Barrow White is?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no clue. It's obviously something evil.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And where do they come from? So here's the thing. Tolkien didn't say much about these things. Apparently, from what I was able to gather from a few different sources, it's not an original creation of Tolkien's.
Oh, really?
There's some, there was belief in different things like these.
Kind of like a Loch Ness kind of thing.
Well, the Loch Ness thing is more like a modern. That's more like a it's more just like an ancient sort of thing, the people, some weird things dwelling in the forest, right? It's not like,
When you say ancient, how ancient do you mean?
I mean, this goes back to times well before, I think of Loch Ness and, the abominable snowman as things that are 20th century things, I
thought Loch Ness was old. I thought that went back to not ancient.
Maybe, but those are just natural creatures, right? This is more like some kind of strange being that lives in the woods, right?
But people believed in this kind of thing?
More or less. I'm just saying, there
have been tales about that.
Yeah, apparently different cultures had beliefs about these kinds of things. I'm not saying that it was a religious belief. I'm just saying it was, folk belief, right?
Okay. And did they call them the same thing? They called them a Barrow White?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. But I think different cultures may have called them different things. But what do we know about the Barrow White from this chapter? What can you say that we know?
Well, we know that it kind of lured them in.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
The fog, kind of produced this fog to disorient them, and it did something to draw them in. Yeah.
Well, so there's this, they get to this point on the Barrow-Downs, and Frodo says, "Come on, follow me." He called back over his shoulder and he hurried forward. But his hopes soon came to change to bewilderment and alarm. The dark patches grew darker, but they shrank. And suddenly he saw, towering ominous before him and leaning slightly towards one another like the pillars of a headless door, 2 huge standing stones. He could not remember having seen any sign of these in the valley when he looked out from the hill in the morning. He had passed between them almost before he was aware. and even as he did so, darkness seemed to fall round him. His pony reared and snorted, and he fell off. When he looked back, he found that he was alone. The others had not followed him. So he passes through these two huge standing stones,
which is weird because it even says just before that it had started to get a little bit foggy, and so they were staying close together in a line.
Yeah,
Frodo was in the lead, but they were staying really close together, and they were going really slow.
Right.
So I was even confused of how Frodo even got separated from the pack, because I felt like they were intentionally, trying to stay together and go slow, and then all of a sudden he's been drawn into this weird place where the others didn't follow.
It's interesting. Later, when they get out of the mess, Merry says, when Merry wakes up, he's like, "What in the name of wonder?"
Mm-hmm.
Then he stopped, and a shadow came over his face, and he closed his eyes. "Of course, I remember," he said. "The men of Carn Dûm came on us at night, and we were worsted. Ah, the spear in my heart!" He clutched at his breast. "No, no," he said, opening his eyes. "What am I saying? I have been dreaming. Where did you get to, Frodo?" And then Frodo says, "I thought I was lost, but I don't want to speak of it."
It's almost like they came under a spell.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, I don't know that they were so much into like a geographic place as they like entered into this weird like netherworld or something like that. I don't know if passing through those two giant pillars was some kind of like passage into another world or something like that, or into another dimension, or what the heck it was.
Maybe it was just a hallucination altogether.
Maybe it was just part of the spell, or something like that.
Yeah.
But just very, very strange. But they pass through that, and Frodo gets separated from them, and eventually he finds himself in this, basically in this room surrounded by all these gold things, and he sees a dark black shape.
Yeah, and he calls it like a walking hand, right?
Well, before he even gets there, it says, "To his right there loomed against the westward stars a dark black shape, a great barrow." Actually, this is before he's even in the room, I think. He just sees this dark black shape, a great barrow, and then he says, "Where are you?" And a voice says, "Here, I am waiting for you."
Oh, yeah. Well, it says he's in a barrow, right? He says he knew, and then after that whole "I'm waiting for you" thing, he wakes up, right? And it says that suddenly he knew that he was imprisoned, caught hopelessly. He was in a barrow. What is a barrow? Is it like a cave?
Gosh, that's a good question. I looked that up, and I felt like I couldn't get a straight answer on it. That's the really weird thing about these is like I feel like there's no straight answers on any of it.
Like on this particular creature, you mean? Or?
Yeah. Let me see here. I'm looking it up.
It's kind of like, it sounds like burrow, right? Like you
Right.
think of, moles or, gophers or whatever, living in burrows underground, but it says it's a barrow. I wonder if they're related at all.
So one definition is a lunar crater.
A lunar crater.
Yeah, so it might just be a crater.
Well, before they all, this is interesting. This just occurred to me. But the last time Tom saved them in the previous, or a couple chapters ago, they had stopped, right, to take a break, and they had fallen asleep accidentally, and that's when Old Man Willow tried to get them, right? And then the same thing happened here. They sat down, and they almost described it like a crater, didn't they? Like it was.
Oh, you know what it is? Yeah, it's it's like a burial mound, is what it is.
A burial mound.
A burial mound, yeah.
Okay.
So it's like I think when they go underground, it's like they're basically underneath. They're like within the burial mounds,
like
different burial mounds.
Kind of?
Yeah, almost. I don't know if you would call them. Because I think of catacombs, and I think of something like deep and expansive, but maybe. I mean, maybe that's the general idea that it's more than just it's like an underground burial chamber or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
So So you get the sense from this that there's that this is almost like this vast graveyard, they're wandering through.
Okay. Well, but didn't they describe the place where they stopped and accidentally fell asleep? They kind of described it as like almost like a crater.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that might make sense if there's a bunch of mounds around it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and that's where they accidentally fell asleep.
Yeah.
Right? After their nap.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that the last couple times that Tom has had to save them, it's because they've fallen asleep.
Right.
Right? And woken up to danger.
Yeah.
It's like they let their guard down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I was able to find about the Barrow Whites. So going back a long time, you basically had this time when this whole area that they're in, this vast area called Eriador, was part of the kingdom of Arnor, which is like the northern part of the kingdom of Gondor. All right, you had Arnor and then you had Gondor in the south, right? Yeah. And these are like these great kingdoms of the Edain, who were the elf friends of old, right? The men who were the elf friends of old, okay? Numenorians, right?
Yes.
So they had this big kingdom called Arnor up in the north, and then eventually that one fell while Gondor was still there in the south, and it fell because of this guy named the Witch King of Angmar, right?
Okay. Oh yes.
And the Witch King of Angmar is basically the chief of the Black Riders, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And when he eventually got kicked out of there, he eventually got defeated and was banished from that region, but he kind of left the Barrow Whites as a parting gift. And Carn Dûm, which they mentioned, Carn Dûm, which they mentioned, it was apparently like the capital city of his realm, right?
I see. Okay.
So the men of Carn Dûm would have been like these evil men who were in service of the Witch King of Angmar, and so the Barrow White might be like a soul of one of these individuals, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Like the spirit of one of these individuals left behind.
Okay.
So, like when
that's not at all creepy.
Well, yeah. Well, and so what the incantation that it gives as it's coming for him, right? What
is an incantation?
Incantation?
Yeah.
Like a spell.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, let's see. So just so we set the stage for it. Suddenly a song began, a cold murmur rising and falling. The voice seemed far away and immeasurably dreary, sometimes high in the air and thin, sometimes like a low moan from the ground. Out of the formless stream of sad but horrible sounds, strings of words would now and again shape themselves. Grim, hard, cold words, heartless and miserable. The night was railing against the morning of which it was bereaved, and the cold was cursing the warmth for which it hungered. Frodo was chilled to the marrow. After a while the song became clearer, and with dread in his heart he perceived that it had changed into an incantation. Cold be hand and heart and bone, and cold be sleep under stone. Never more to wake on stony bed, never till the sun fails and the moon is dead. In the black wind the stars shall die, and still on gold here let them lie, till the dark Lord lifts his hand over a dead sea and withered land. Who do you think the Dark Lord is referring to there? Like what Dark Lord?
Oh, which Dark Lord?
Yeah.
Sauron?
Maybe.
Not to be confused with Saruman.
Well, yeah, Saruman we don't even know was really even know is a bad guy yet.
Right. So Sauron. What do you think it's Melkor? Well,
it could be either one of those, but I kind of think it's referring just to the Witch King of Angmar, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in a way, the Black Riders are still in play here, right? And could it be that this is a response from this Barrow to its ancient lord, right? That it's it's trying to grab a hold. And what's interesting is right after that, with the ring, it says, a wild thought of escape came to him. He wondered if he put on the ring whether the Barrow-wight would miss him, and he might find some way out. He thought of himself running free over the grass, grieving for Merry and Sam and Pippin, but free and alive himself. Gandalf would admit that there had been nothing else he could do. So it's almost like, he's tempted by the ring here. So it's almost like he's being tempted to put on the ring.
It's true.
So part of me wonders, even though the connection isn't explicitly made, if this is somehow the influence, like the Witch King of Angmar, who is looking for him on the road, is like, okay, well, maybe they went through the woods and now they're in the Barrow-Downs, and if they're in the Barrow-Downs, then I'll just summon some of my old minions to try and deal with them.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay. You kind of just answered my question, because I was trying to figure out if this Barrow-wight even knew who they were, and if they were essentially targets, or if they just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But you're saying that you think maybe they were targets, like they were.
Maybe it's not said explicit.
Right, it's not explicit, but there's some contextual clues that make us think.
I mean, it could just be as simple as they're wandering through this ancient graveyard.
Or just somewhere where they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They seem to have a penchant for wandering into the wrong place at the wrong time.
Hence my haiku.
Yes. Yes, hence your haiku.
Yes.
So
he basically, this Barrow-wight puts them to sleep, essentially, right?
Right.
And then they wake up and it's like they're paralyzed, right? And he's able to see his friends, right? And he says that they're cold and their face is super, they basically look dead, right?
Right.
But it's interesting that even despite the temptation of the ring and the horror of the situation, he's still able to remember this song, this call for help that Tom taught him. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, I wish, like, I hope that I hope I'm not, but if I'm ever in this kind of stressful situation, that I can think clearly enough to remember the call for help that my friend taught me. Yeah. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'd be able to think clearly enough to do that. But Frodo did. Yeah,
well, and it's not the last time that something like that will happen, where in a dark moment, a character will...
Yeah, that's true. It's almost like a divine inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. And who knows, maybe that last vision of Goldberry had something to do with that.
It's possible, yeah.
It is possible.
I'm sure it certainly strengthened him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Any other thoughts about the Barrow-wight?
Well,
any other questions about it?
Yeah, I was trying to picture it in my head and I just couldn't. Now this is not in the movie either, is it?
No, it's not.
I don't think so.
Not at
Probably
all.
because Peter Jackson didn't know what the heck it was or how to portray it. So.
Yeah, this one would have been challenging. I mean, basically, it's either a dark black shape or it's like a hand, a giant hand.
Right, yeah, that's what they were talking about, it being like a walking hand.
Yeah.
Right? So I was thinking, maybe it's like a spidery kind of thing. Because if you think of a hand walking, it would kind of resemble
it would.
A spider. But, yeah, I don't know. It's totally creepy and weird. For sure. What do you think would have happened if Tom hadn't shown up?
Well, it seems like it was planning to basically kill the hobbits.
That's why the sword was laid across their...
Yeah, it's almost like it was trying to just bury them as well, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's almost just the spirit of death, this agent of death, and it was just trying to bury them along with it itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best I can come up with.
Yeah. Well, isn't it a bit wild that first Tom defeats Old Man Willow with a song, and now he defeats the Barrow-wight with the song as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something is so. I mean, the old man Willow. Yeah, he was mean and evil, but still he was a tree.
Yeah.
Like he was not nearly as creepy and scary.
Right.
Looking as this thing is.
Right.
But this thing is still susceptible to Tom's thing, and it just made me even more curious about who Tom is and how is he able to defeat these dark creatures. Obviously in this one particularly, very evil creature, just with singing. I mean, I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he says, basically he uses light, right? Vanish in the sunlight, shrivel like the cold mist, like the winds go wailing, out into the barren lands far beyond the mountains. Come never here again, leave your barrow empty. Lost and forgotten be darker than the darkness, where gates stand forever shut till the world is mended. I think there you have this idea that the darkness isn't stronger than the light, even though it may feel like it sometimes. Darkness is really a. I mean, it's the Tolkienian conception of evil, which is that evil isn't actually a thing itself. It's a phantom, right? It's a negation of the good, which means that there's evil and good are not at parity, right? Evil is a darkness that is an absence of light, but light is a thing, right? Yeah. Good is a thing. Evil is ultimately not a thing,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It's like black is not a color, right? It's the absence of color,
right?
So, yeah.
Right. And then light, but if light comes in and fills a place, it's like the darkness is vanished, right?
That's true.
And the darkness has no power against the light. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's why Tom has such power over it, is because he's master, right? He's master of this whole region, and when he comes in, it's kind of like, he's just kind of like the sunlight shining in on it, right? And he's beyond death as well, I think, in a way, right?
What?
He's beyond death in a way.
Yeah. Almost, didn't we talk about this last time? He's almost like glorified or perfected in a
exactly.
way. He's not. Yeah. He's kind of in a different plane of reality.
Yeah, it would seem. It would seem.
Which would give him a leg up on things.
Yeah.
In this different phase of reality. I mean, if you're on a higher plane of reality, then obviously you're going to have dominion over things that are in a lower form of reality.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what he does. But yeah, I just think I don't know, I feel like, I love that Tolkien put him in here, because I just feel like he kind of encapsulates, his character is just, not only is it mind-boggling in a way, but it's also just kind of comic relief, and it's, obviously the way the hobbits are still alive, and it, it's just like this intense good, this intensely good thing in the midst of this really dark period and events.
Yeah.
Literally the light, like you said.
Right.
So, I like Tom.
Tom's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would be really sad if I can totally understand why the hobbits are so bummed when he says he has to leave them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be very reassuring to have Tom along with you.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
But he doesn't have much power outside of. I think he is kind of tied to this area, and if he were to leave it, it's not. It's almost like he can't leave it, because he embodies the spirit of that area.
Right.
You know?
And so if he would essentially lose. He wouldn't be the same character, right?
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have that same spirit.
Right.
In him.
He says, "Out east, my knowledge fails. Tom is not master of riders from the Black Land far beyond this country."
And then he says, Tom's country ends here.
Yeah.
He will not pass the borders. Tom has his house to mind, and Goldberry is waiting.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now the hobbits are on to Bree. They're getting back to the main road.
Mm-hmm. So Tom leads them back to the main road.
Right.
Right, but that's where he leaves them.
But now that they're through the old forest and the Barrow-Downs and all the freakiness there, now it's like, oh great, now we just have to deal with Black Riders.
Right. It was almost like you get this feeling that they have like this little glimmer of relief, having we're back on the oh wait.
Well, and it's
it's like
it's kind of funny to me because it's like, what were they thinking in the first? I mean, like, they were gonna if they're gonna get to Rivendell, eventually they've got to get back to the main road. So it's almost like you understand why they did go through the old forest, but it's like I think when they and I've been here before in something where you've got some big problem you don't want to deal with, so you're like, well, maybe I'll take this other way, but in the back of your mind that eventually you're gonna have to deal with that problem
you have to deal with it anyway. It's almost just a procrastination technique.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering if they're just like, maybe we should have just gone. Maybe this would have all been easier if we just gone the main road in the first place.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm sure that's in the back of there. And even Frodo says, it's almost like he's trying to justify his decision to go through the old forest when he says, I suppose we haven't lost more than 2 days by my shortcut through the forest.
Right.
But perhaps the delay will prove useful. It may have put them off our trail.
Maybe.
But
probably not.
Yeah. But that's just like his little way to try and make himself feel better about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, maybe good will come of it. Because I mean, he's got to keep his spirits up at this point. He can't be beating himself up over every little thing because he'll just he'll lose heart and he'll lose faith and he won't get very far that way.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So Tom tells him to go to the Prancing Pony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Prancing Pony is in Bree. Mm-hmm. And so that's where they're heading next. If you look at, you don't have the maps in yours, do you?
Mm-mm.
Let's see if I can show you this. All right. That's just the Shire. So let me look at the bigger map here.
So Bree is, as it says that hobbits and, what did they say? What did they call them? Big people? Oh, big folk.
Right.
So there's hobbits and big folk in Bree.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them have been there before, right?
No. Well, I think Mary says that maybe he's been to Bree before. Does he say that?
I thought maybe he said that some of his friends.
Oh, he says, my people ride out there now and again.
Yeah.
That's what he says. So, yeah, Bree isn't too far from where they are coming out of the Barrow-Downs. And that'll be kind of a little stopping point for them, and then it's on to the long road to Rivendell from there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Long ways to go. Real quick, what did you think about... So you kind of skimmed over the dream at the very beginning?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know there was a dream in this chapter.
Yeah. That night they heard no noises, but either in his dreams or out of them, he could not tell which. Frodo heard a sweet singing running in his mind. A song that seemed to come like a pale light behind a grey rain curtain, and growing stronger to turn the veil all to glass and silver, until at last it was rolled back and the far green country opened before him under a swift sunrise. Right. What do you think that is?
The green country?
Yeah.
Rivendell.
I don't think so. I think so. I could, you know what? I could see that.
Well, it's obviously a very idyllic place, right?
Right. I was sort of thinking that it was a vision of the Blessed Realm, right?
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah. But I could see it being Rivendell too.
It's obviously, and I want to go to their place.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Probably Frodo would vastly prefer to be there right now than in the Barrow-Downs.
Yes, probably.
Probably, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what inspired your haiku, huh?
Yes, it was. All right. Well, that's kind of, this chapter.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
There's basically it's just like, what the heck is up with this Barrow White?
I know.
And it's weird.
It is totally weird. Do they only live in the Barrows?
As far as I know.
Okay, so they probably won't come back into play.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But
That's weird. You know, if it weren't for Tom Bombadil, those Pavos would be dead, and we'd have no more story.
that's
Right
true.
now. So it's a good thing Tolkien put him in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tolkien, boy, that guy really knew what he was doing.
he knew what he was doing. Rule number 1. Don't kill off your main character in the first 10 chapters.
Yes. Yes. Or else your story will come to an end. Come to an abrupt end.
And you'll have severe writer's block.
That's right.
Forever.
Now what do I do? Well, there goes my 3 sequels I was planning.
Darn.
Yeah.
I'll have to find another day job.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Good stuff, Johnny.
Yeah, good stuff. Next time we will continue on with Chapter 9 at the Sign of the Prancing Pony. And, yeah, that's the plan.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. So, thanks for listening, everybody. Go check out truemyths.org. So, as of when you're listening to this, I will probably have my next article up about Tolkien's faith, which deals with the insignificance of hobbits and the significance of insignificance,
I like
if
it.
you will. All tying back to this idea of the secret life and creation that Tolkien spoke about when it came to hobbits. So go check that out, and go check out the website for more haiku from me and from Josh, and maybe Greta will get her act together and turn out another haiku or something like that.
I wouldn't count on
Been
it.
kind of slacking lately on the haiku.
Hey, when you tell me I only get to read one on the air, my quota goes way down.
See, but you gotta have a good one to read on the air, right? You gotta have one you're proud of.
I was super proud of the one I read
okay,
tonight.
good. Then there you go.
There I go. John,
Give yourself
I'm all
a pat on
about
the back.
quality, not quantity.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'd rather have one amazing, mind-blowing haiku than 5 mediocre ones.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's my goal every week. Is to just write one amazing haiku.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Do you feel like you achieved that this week?
I do. I really liked mine.
Then give yourself a high five. Nice.
Done.
Right on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All
right.
Let's go.
Where are we going?
Off the air.
Oh. Man, you're in
Right?
a hurry to get away from our listeners, huh?
I'm feeling bad for our listeners at this point. I'm taking pity on them. I'm having mercy.
They don't have to put any effort into listening. They just pop in the earphones and just
Well, I
let her,
know, but we've been
let her play.
dragging out like our sign off for the last 5 minutes, so surely they're getting tired of it.
Maybe they're like, this is an epic sign out. This is awesome. This is very Tolkien.
Maybe. That may be true. That may be true.
We're just riffing, man. We're just like jamming. We're like the Grateful Dead of
or
Tolkien podcast
Fish.
right now.
We're just like
we're just
feeling it.
we're just
keeping
riffing.
It going.
We're just going.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and I'm like, yeah, do 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 do
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah,
got
we're
some
just-
bass in there.
We're just feeling it.
Yeah, just
All right.
rocking out.
All right. Okay, that's enough. All right. Talk at you next time, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes, other haiku, and lots of additional Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On the next episode, we continue our discussion of The Lord of the Rings with Chapter 9 of Fellowship, at the Sign of the Prancing Pony. Please tune in, and thanks for listening.